people tap into their higher self or whatever they're channeling, and they come out with this nonsensical sounds that are from the heart, like fully from the heart. And it's really fascinating. So it's like almost like ET language in a way. Yeah, and it can shift a lot of things for people because like that's why the like in the Pentecostal church and stuff, like the guy's doing tongues and the guy's getting out of the wheelchair. Because again, nobody's in their thinking mind. They're allowing for an event that was not thought possible to emerge by getting out of the way and like feeling it into existence. Because our brain blocks. It blocks us from doing everything. So when you let it go, like let it take a back seat, you're actually not blocking God, all it is, the universe, the ETs, whatever is going on, you're allowing.
To a Broaderlenspodcast.
The opinions expressed on Broaderlenspodcast are those of the guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Broaderlenspodcast.
Zenka, thanks for coming on Broaderlenspodcast. I really appreciate it. I look forward to this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
And you were just at the Conscious Life Expo, right?
That's right. In LA, we did a big spoon bending. Like really mind-blowing. When you get that many people together, it's like all of it amplifies. We had this woman, she was like 80 years old. She's like bending her spoon without touching. I mean, it was just, it's like you never know what's going to happen. And it's so stimulating to be around so many interesting people at one time.
Yeah, wow. So I apologize for missing you. I only stayed till Friday and I left Saturday evening. I usually stay the whole time, but I couldn't this time around. So I'll see you next year and join you. And yeah,
Cool.
Appreciate it. Maybe you could share a little bit about what you do and who you are for those who may not know who you are.
Yeah. So I used to be a total techie living in LA, working on augmented reality and virtual reality. And, I always say I didn't know what a chakra was. And then I had an awakening after Reiki, and I suddenly was like, why didn't anyone explain any of this to me? And I started to really be deeply curious about how reality was put together. And I thought, well, if consciousness is really important, why are we solving all of the problems in the world without even considering that, without using the science behind that? So I started studying how people do impossible things. And I thought, we got to share this data with the world because knowledge is the new oil. It's like we have to come together and start getting this data out. So I wanted to build a nonprofit that was just like shoving data out of all these things that society was going, we can't do this. We can't get people off heroin. We can't contact aliens without the government. We can't, people can't find their purpose and say, wait a minute. Well, someone did. What did they do? How did they get out of the wheelchair? Someone got out of the wheelchair. What the heck did they do? And so I started really being interested in phenomenon and why, in some rare cases, do people get out of a wheelchair? What did they do? Because one thing I know is that we're all the same. So if you can do the 4-minute mile, then I can, we all can figure out how to do it. So that's what we did. And we set up these curiosity labs and a mystery school we call Sarsi Academy. And we set out to interview 100 people at a time doing these impossible things, so that we could tell a story and encourage other people to get in a group of 8 and try it themselves.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. What was your upbringing like, if you don't mind me asking, just to get a little bit of your background early on?
So I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Midwest, normal everything. My mom was a painter and pretty successful at it, and my dad was a doctor, and I had a sister. And I, at age Well, at seventh grade, I got somehow able to go to performing arts school. So it was like Fame, right? In downtown Cincinnati. And it was half black, half white. It was like super fun. I mean, we were like eating lunch in math class so we could do the like theater class or dance class or whatever we were doing. And it was just passionate people doing cool stuff. And that changed my life forever. And I love to travel. I went to school in Chicago and got into film afterwards. And yeah, so that's a
Well,
little bit. And then, I moved. I you know, I got kind of freaked out about the state of affairs in after 9/11, and I moved to Argentina to start my life over. And I fell in love, got married to an Argentinian, had a kid. And he wanted to move back to the US. I was like, really? I was like, okay. So we moved back to the US and I became an artist, and I worked in ceramic, augmented reality work. And then I had this spiritual awakening and decided to build software for the world. So yeah.
wow, that's awesome. What part of Cincy were you in? I was there for 4 years.
Oh, that's
Uh,
cool. So I lived in Pierce Park and then went to, downtown to go to school at SCPA.
okay, I was more towards in Mason. What's the name of that theme park?
Oh,
Kings
yeah.
Island. Yeah, I was like 10 minutes from there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I already worked at Kings Island over the summer doing shows and stuff. Yeah.
That's
That
cool.
was a
Yeah, a lot of good experiences. I actually had an outer body experience in Ohio. Yeah, it was just pretty interesting.
Tell me
Well, I
about
feel
it.
bad because I tell it a lot, but I'll let you know because people that listen all the time may have heard this story. But I was working in Mainville, Ohio,
Uh-huh.
not far from Mason, and I was on a job site. I'm a finished carpenter, and there was no restroom. I was in the woods, and I looked into a weed or a flower, and I had this outer body experience that I went in and out of for a couple of days. And I was in a pure state of consciousness. I've heard Eckhart Tolle share about it, and Joe Dispenza touch a little bit about it, which made me more. Um, when I was during that time, I started to seek out. It was hard to find friends and talk about this kind of stuff. So I realized that we're all one consciousness. We're all one. We're all connected. The mind and body I wasn't attached to like I am now. I was just really, I was beyond all the labels, all the mental conditioning, and I was just in a pure state of consciousness, not just with people, but with everything. And I remember looking like outside of my body. I was like in the air, and it kind of the best way to describe it is the predator. Remember how he would like be like cloaking or something? And like and it was kind of like it was clear, but it was kind of a little bit blurry, if that makes sense. And that was I was beyond my mind and body. I was in a pure state of consciousness that was beyond time and space, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's very unusual. I was doing research because we're interviewing Dan Winters, who's a fractal physicist. And I was looking at the math for when people, like, have you ever seen the kids that get blindfolded and they can actually see everything
Yeah,
around them?
yeah.
Then I saw the graph, it's alpha brainwaves, which is a state of oneness and love. So your brain must have gone into alpha, and this is what the monks train for their whole life, is trying to pull their brain into that alpha frequency where it's like their oneness. So that's really cool. That's really cool. Because I bet your body knows how to do that since you've done it before.
Mm.
Your body somehow just knows that. I mean, and this is the thing, I was interviewing Steve Farrell, who's the head of Humanities team the other day, and he said that we have to start understanding that we're one. And he calls it the Galileo moment because he said, Galileo lived at the time where his ideas were so out there, he was on house arrest. And you probably experienced that your ideas were out there because you were one of the first people, in modern times experiencing this. And so it's like, but he said, we're all have to be Galileo now. And we all have to explain how we know that we're all one because it's not logical. We have been told from the beginning that we're somehow separate, and actually we are entangled. Like the Nobel Prize is about entanglement. So there's actually, we can be very far in distance, but we're spooky action at a distance. Somehow this affects this. It's just like, and that's the experience I had when I was awoken. Like I literally, everything was synchronized because I was in tune with everything. It was like we were all in the same musical song, So it's really something that's quite perplexing, but I'm glad you're explaining this to the world and grappling with the world because it has massive implications on every single decision we
Yes.
make. Relationships, reading the news, all of it. Because if we're all just a piece of each other, then you can't really bitch and moan about other people because they're part of you. So no matter how you take sides, we can't take sides anymore. We just have to go, all right, we're all in the same ship here. What can I do to love you more so that you can be better, so that I can be better? It's just like, it throws out this old world paradigm that someone else's business is their business, and that you don't affect your health affects my health. Your business affects my business. And vice versa. Like I often am just like, oh wow, I can't believe I experienced this with my friend. What is this friend telling me? What is this reflection? How can I add to the solution here? It's interesting. It's just like it fundamentally changes the discourse of everything in your life to understand that we're somehow all connected.
Yeah, and that's the greatest part of my awakening is being more in harmony with the oneness of life. Now, I'm not saying I don't go outside and I'm driving and that guy's a jerk. Some just cut me off and kind of rude, but I still know that we're all one. We're all like we're all connected, and everything has a ripple effect. And I'm more mindful. I'm more heart living more in the heart versus the egoic mind. If that makes sense. And when I say egoic mind, it's like all beyond all, like, which blinded me. Because I don't think the ego's a very bad thing. I think it's just, it can become unhealthy when I'm all conditioned in all these different types of identities that really blind me from that oneness of life and my true essence. But yeah, I started to live, like when I was in Ohio, I experienced a lot of racism and discrimination. I wasn't used to that because I'm from Los Angeles. Right after that experience, but like with understanding that we're all one, and people suffer from wrong perception, belief systems, and learned behavior. When I understood that in me, then I can have more compassion for you, and people in general. And yeah, so I'm more heart living more in the heart. I'm less reactive. Now, I'm not saying I don't get like a jerk. Sometimes I don't get angry and frustrated, but I'm nowhere near the person that I once was.
Yeah, I think we forget to step back because talk about racism. I mean, racism, like 50 years ago, you and I couldn't even be in the same, like in the room with
Yeah.
it. 70 years ago, it was just like unstomachable completely. And, I was in Ohio, I was part of this busing school idea because racism is a lack of knowledge about the other. So you
Mm.
have all these, like you said, like the stereotypes, thoughts, whatever, that don't have any basis in reality. And so when they did this performing arts school, they said, well, instead of busing kids from one neighborhood to the other neighborhood so we can all get to know each other, let's do what they called a magnet school. So let's just have one for academics, one for sports, and one for arts. And so then we were all together because we all love the arts. You know what I mean? And so it didn't matter what skin we were because we were just excited about dancing or whatever we were doing, So it's like a common passion, and it all just went away. I mean, we walked out of that school so different than other kids in other schools, and it helped us I mean, we've talked about this so many times, just helped us in every single aspect of life going forward, you know? And you're right. In LA, it's just beautiful because you just see people, no one cares, you know, no one cares what color anyone is. It's just like, let's do this, you know? So the world is catching up. And I think we forget sometimes because all of the whole thing hasn't like, propagated yet, you know what I mean? The wave hasn't gotten everywhere, but it's happening. We're getting it. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We are. That's why I'm so optimistic about our future.
Yeah, but I did find a group of friends that I call the Vibe Tribe, and we were just all into like seeking out just different routes and different religions and spirituality and science. And I always say science without spirituality is incomplete, and spirituality without science is ignorance. And I would love for you to have us touch on during this conversation, share more about science and spirituality and how it interconnects with one another. Um,
Yeah, you know, I think that um it's just like the masculine and the feminine and everything else. There's been like a massive disconnect here of I don't relate to that. I think on the left brain, not on the right brain. Are you kidding me? Like whatever. And it's gonna finally make sense when we pull the two together because we are all different, and there's some people that are highly spiritual that are not at all scientific, and vice versa. And we need to, if we want to propagate this understanding, we need to mix those camps and harmonize them, right? So you got to have the scientific people going, well, wait a minute, I'm kind of questioning this. Let me look at this again. And the spiritual people going, you know, hey, wait a minute, like, this is repeatable. Like, what, you know, what can we do to be really grounded in this? Because we can be grounded. Like spoon bending and all this stuff, it's actually happening and we can repeat it. And now, you know, all this measurement stuff is like on Amazon for $20. So this whole like subtle measurement, like measuring your heart, your brain, your this, your that, you know, it's all $20 on Amazon or whatever, 200, but it's like something that's not 2000, you know, not impossible.
Yeah,
Which is
thank you. So, what happened for you during this awakening? You had an awakening and you just started to explore things and you got into what type of research do you do and how'd you get into it?
so I was like you were kind of describing. It was like I had no one to talk to, had no idea what was happening to me. Everything was synchronized. I thought I couldn't eat stuff. I felt my body was funny. I was like I was just like on YouTube going, what is going on? What's going on? Why is anyone talking about this? It's like people had these big events happen, like they see a UFO and then they would just not talk about it. I'm like, that's the coolest thing that ever happened to you. Why don't you talk about it? Like, I just wanted to talk about it and I wanted to like understand everything. But then my life became kind of a nightmare and I had a dark night of the soul where it's almost like the universe hands you the magic wand. They're like, it's you can create everything. You already are creating everything. Here you go. And then you go, and then you hit down where as high as you went, you hit down as and I was just like, it was a nightmare. I'm like, my husband, my kid, the whole thing, it was just like, I could barely get out of bed. I was so depressed and I didn't know even how to be depressed because I'm not a depressive person. So I was just like, and the only thing that got me excited about the world was reading about spoon bending. Because I landed on this guy's website and I was like, well, I just need to do something. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, how this is insane. Like, which is like ridiculous to me. And I was just fancied by it. And so I started putting together my first spoon bending party. And then I got really interested in understanding consciousness and talking to scientists that were figuring this out and doing a lot of citizen science to get everyone to have the experiences that we were having. Because you can't read about it. You have to like have an experience because it's too impossible to believe. So yeah.
So you teach people how to spoon. It's a joke.
Yes. So spoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the way to teach anyone how to spoon bending, and anyone can do it. We do it every month on our platform. Is you just get out of your head.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think you were really in your head when you started connecting with all that is? Like, if I had told you, oh, just meditate and you're going to like connect with everything in the whole world, you would just be like, what are you talking about? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And so it's like your brain can't really be down with it because you can't. It's just like when I first started doing apports, I was just like, I want to believe in this, but I cannot believe in this because it's absolutely retarded and ridiculous. But then it worked. And I was like, okay. So what we do in spoon bending is we get you out of your mind, meaning we cause chaos, we jump up and down, we scream, we like have people yelling, anything to get you to stop thinking. And when you stop thinking, the natural, like, amazingness of the universe can flow through you. And people end up bending spoons. I'm like, how'd you do it? They're like, I don't know. Like, okay, yes, exactly. So it's just a momentary moment where the spoon becomes soft and you realize that you could lift a car up your kid if you needed to, or it's just, yeah, it's just, we really have to raise the bar of what we believe we can do, because that's the first step. You believing that you could have a successful podcast and YouTube channel is like, that was the first hurdle. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to do it. And that like little belief in it happened. And then it just grows from there. And I think we're selling ourselves short. We can stop wars. We can feed everybody. We just have to get in there and use our might that's coming out of our will and our in domination. Like, we cannot be dominated into playing small. We can't be, it's like, I don't know, we need to take back our creatorship and really show people that what we think and what we feel and what we believe matters. And we're selling ourselves short when we believe that we can't heal, believe we can't recover, believe that because it's all fluid. Your relationships are all fluid. Like, you can have a new day dawn in everything. So I think we get to help each other feel more hopeful, because that's really critical to things going well.
Yeah.
Just really stepping out and saying, okay, this is the way this is the way it's going to be, because I said so, because I'm going to create that, because I believe in that, because I'm standing for that, because I believe in that. And if you keep going and don't despair, it usually unlocks for you. There's this Joseph Campbell thing that says that if you follow your passion and purpose, things that you thought were walls become doors. Doors actually open for you if you hold it. If you hold your belief, I'm going to recover. This person is going to recover. I can be a successful, podcast host. All these things, like, it's really important that we start with what we can do. We can't change the world, but we can be responsible for our own field. And I was researching again. I'm just obsessed because yesterday I spent a lot of time researching Dan Winters and how he talks about how the heart creates a fractal field that implodes upon itself, and it builds that alpha that you were in, where you were one. And you had massive implosion. So it was like your field just got massive. And it happens if you can spark it from your heart, if you can put your heart in it, somehow that reality ends up happening, because there may be multiple timelines where in one timeline you're not successful, one time you are successful, or whatever the thing is, right? And so it's like you're rising almost to that, to conspiring everything to support you in your heart mission, in your soul purpose, or your calling.
So what is consciousness? I know that's a hard question for any of us,
My
but
son is always asking that, and he's 10 years old, and he gets totally
wow.
crazy, and we get in the worst discussions about this. He's like, consciousness is like the opposite of unconscious, and I'm like, well, not really. So, and I remember after I had my spiritual awakening, I still didn't know what it meant. I think it's stupid that it's such a difficult word, and I think in other languages they have more words for it.
Mm.
I would say you can kind of think of it like an AI coming online, aware that it's alive. So it's similar in the sense that you can just be in the world kind of sleepwalking or just living your life. And then consciousness kicks in where you go, oh my gosh, this is not what I thought it is. And I have a different layer of responsibility, and also the opposite of responsibility, of just relax and enjoy. It's like super paradoxical, everything. It's like where the two opposites come together. So it's almost like, oh, I can just relax and let everything unfold around me. And then you can also be like, I can will into existence anything I would ever desire. So it's like it's a letting go, and it's also holding. It's like knowing yourself. So I think consciousness is being aware that our thoughts and feelings and emotions are more fundamental than matter. So your inner world is creating your outer world somehow.
Yeah, you just explained my awakening. Thank you.
I mean, that was a clumsy way of saying it, but I don't really know. I mean, this is a great question for us to understand.
Yeah, you're right. You talk about ETs. You've obviously had some encounters, UFO sightings. You had ET encounters. And how does the consciousness and ETs come together for you?
Well, the guy that did the biggest research, worldwide scientific data, academic research, Ray Hernandez, who did the biggest research we've ever had about ET contact, like hundreds of people from all different countries, like, was it good? Was it bad? What happened? How'd you do it? What are the modalities? He just came out with a book that said that everything, like, not scratch everything, but he goes, oh, by the way, it's all consciousness. So to some extent, this world around us is like a painting, and we can paint whatever we want in it. We can have whatever experiences we want in it. So one theory is that we all watched Star Wars, we all watched Star Trek, and now we want to be galactic. And so that's the reality we created. We also seem to somehow want World War IV. I don't know why, but that seems to be happening as well, because it's whatever we put our attention and time and focus and thoughts in, right? But it's clear that we want to have this experience of it's just like going to another country. We want to know the other. We want to be excited. We want to eat new things. We want to talk about different things. We want to go travel. We want to go to outer space because that's right there. It's like, so somehow this experience is being requested by the collective. Now, the other side of it is that we know nothing about dimensionality. So I have a belief that we're actually sandwiched in between a bunch of different dimensions that are overlapping, and that there's ETs standing right next to me, because they turn off and on my lights, they turn on my radios. Like, there's something, they're here, but I can't see them. So what is that? It's that your perceptual body, we don't have those super glasses yet, where I can put them on and I can see ETs, or I can actually put myself in a frequency entrainment system where I can actually, now I've talked to people who kind of like your experience you're sharing. They were holding a hand of an autistic boy at 4 and then did like you did, just like completely left their body, went somewhere else. The boy started showing them all this stuff. And then she came back to the park bench going like, what was that? And then he took her back. And she was just like, this anomaly. And she's just like, what's going on? This kid can't even talk. And he was talking to me. And he showed. So there is this idea that other realities are actually braided with different geometries into this. So it could be that the ETs are actually in a slightly different playing field than we are now. They're coming, though, to be in our playing field. So that's happening within this year or next year or whatever. It's very, very happening, right? Very, very happening. So there's going to be a collision of these two worlds, which is going to be really fun and really cool and really beautiful. Because it's like, building boats that can go across the ocean, going, there's a new world, like we're going to get to do like all the new world, like, oh my gosh, we'll have something else to talk about besides bacon and whatever. We'll actually be like, what do they look like? What do they do? How's their culture? How do they reproduce? Like, what is like, but then there's this other thing that ETs are us. So that was a very attractive like thought for me to think like, okay, well, maybe I'm not just Zenka. Maybe I'm actually an Andromedan or a Gray or an Arcturian or this or that. And maybe I have a whole nother, maybe I'm just in this meat suit just for this. Like, maybe I'm not even used to being a girl. Sometimes I'm like, why do I behave as a girl? I want to build software. No one can deal with me. Like, I don't know. Like, so it's like, I don't know, so there's a lot of different levels. And those are some of my thoughts that it's being requested as part of fantasy. Like if we wanted to build underworld cities in the underground of the ocean, because that's what we were obsessed with, because the stories we told ourselves and the movies we made, then we would be starting to do that. And the fish would start talking. I don't know. The other idea is that the ETs are in other dimensions. And the third thing is that maybe we're actually ETs. And I would say that I started to really take ETs more seriously when I realized that the most respected people, the biggest gurus in my life were secretly in private going, oh, the ETs. Like, they weren't like wanting to talk about it publicly. And I'm one of those people, like, I'm a futurist, so I want to be in the future yesterday. Like, I need to know what is happening out there in next. I want to know next. So that gravitated me to the fact that, well, this is going to be next, so we might as well get in there and be the ones that carry this through, because we don't want to pull out the weapons. We don't want to like because maybe that is a reality. If that's really what we want to create, is that the ETs come down and they're jerks. Like, we could probably create that in our minds and we could probably tell that story, and that might even be happening. So there's this whole idea of parallel realities. Like, maybe that is, I'm not going to experience that. And I have this expression, that's not my movie. So when someone's like, oh my God, the CIA are like watching us, I'm like, not my movie. Been there, done that, not my movie. And then I just drop it. I give it no energy. I don't stress about it. I go, poor Zenka. She was worried about like whatever, the CIA, drop it, move on, next. So it cannot grow in my life. It's just like karma. It's just like relationships. Karma, Ram Dass talks about in rap songs or whatever, these songs that get remixed with his stuff. He's always like, karma is where you decide to walk away. And I was like, oh, I thought it's because you paid your debts or whatever. But it's more like saying, I don't have beef with you anymore. I forgive you. I'm not going to go on this. It's not going to emotionally affect me anymore. I'm not going to pour my energy into this struggle anymore. Thank you. Bless you. I'm out. Cut. I don't want to be in this relationship. I don't want to be in this conversation. And so I'm really just trying to cut myself also from where I place my attention and use my life in the most positive, trailblazing, optimistic pillar of light, because we have choices in this life. And I want to be part of the thing that drives us into our best future, like it's fun. This is great. I mean, 100 years ago, I wouldn't even have a hot water shower, which I really like. I wouldn't have I wouldn't be able to travel to Argentina and live there for 10 years, and get to know empanadas and all the people and the amazingness of their hearts. So it's like, we're in the jackpot moment here. I'm a girl. I got to go to college, all these things. So I don't think we want to be anywhere than we are now. So let's make it awesome. Let people rule.
Yeah.
Finally, the king isn't telling us what to do anymore. Let's run with it.
Well, you got me really thinking, if our thoughts, our consciousness shapes our reality, we can make changes to create a new reality. You hear Joe Dispenza always say, my personality creates my personal reality. The Buddha said it in the Bible, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It's just, the power of the mind. But why does it seem like human beings, it seems like I'm trying to understand the human condition, that we're so addicted to the negative, or we're just being fed the negative. If you watch the news, I mean, it's so harmful to people. I always tell my grandma, stop watching that, grandma. All you do see is fear, hate, discrimination, war, violence, but you don't hear about, hey, that gang member went over there and climbed up the tree and grabbed that cat and took the cat down and saved its life. Or that Muslims helping these Christians move, to a different, there's nothing positive. And if there is, it's very little.
Yeah, that's where YouTube comes in.
Mm.
I think that we got into a terrible situation when we had mass media, because you had 5 corporations in lockstep, and there was no other stories, and the money was the bottom line. I mean, that's like why companies right now, money can't be the bottom. Like, they're doing the triple bottom line: people, planet, profit. So it's not just like, oh, I'm just doing what the stock guys want. No, stockholders, we got to go with the profit. It's actually in their mandate to that be the only thing. So this triple bottom line, this we're starting to mature, and I think that the stories we tell each other are really important, because what if you have to only see things something like 8 times, like Hitler? Like, you see it 8 times, you start to believe it's true. So if every day on the news you're like, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this. So, and that's why it's important that your podcast is your podcast, because it's opening people's minds and their hearts to being more curious, right, about what this all is. And so I think it's our responsibility to, I got so bummed out about the news, because I didn't even know if anything they were saying was complete. I felt like I was getting 80% of the information at all given times. Like, I literally was like, I don't even know I literally could not have an opinion on anything. On Ukraine, I'm like, what about the pipeline? They're not talking about that. I was like, I literally cannot have an opinion about anyone. Putin, any leader, because I don't even know what's happening behind the scenes. I have no idea why they're making what decision. Literally makes no sense. And so, what I can control is my little life here in Sedona, and my friends, and my swim lane parties, or whatever we do. That's what we can control. And telling, in going to YouTube and getting on shows that are fun, that are different, because the network, your grandma's in the cycle. And
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. What do you think about the simulation theory? Are we in a simulation? If so, like who's controlling it? Who's watching us? Because you hear a lot of the old texts, like the Gnostic Gospels, they talk about the not the watchers, right? Like I don't know. That's a major possibility, in my opinion.
I think we're definitely living in a simulation. I would like to read more about the Watchers because that is definitely the like gotcha thing in my mind where I can't really resolve it. So
Mm.
I'm not even sure if we're bending the spoons or someone else is doing it on the other side. So it's like a very big question for me. But I can say that I believe in Indra's pearls. So Indra's pearls are this idea that everyone has their own copy of the universe. And maybe we're 144,000 souls creating this. Maybe we're 8 billion souls creating this. I'm not really sure. Maybe we're just one person per ball. But if this is, I mean, see, it's so hard because when we identify ourselves as a single person, then the logic falls apart because and I know we're not us.
Yeah.
We're a we. So it gets very confusing. But I feel that that we're starting to understand that if our inner world creates our outer world, if synchronicities exist, if what we think and feel, like, I mean, the spoon bending is a perfect example where you're thinking like, this has got to be a simulation because this is like, doesn't seem like it's obeying the rules of the material world. It's obeying the rules of a consciousness world or of like a quantum world. So yeah, I definitely think we're living in a simulation of some kind, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's been created by us. It's like a recursive algorithm. So we're creating what we're inside. Everyone's got the crayons out. So everything you're doing is creating the next moment for everyone. And I've noticed that in my life when I really take care of myself, my friends do well. And when I really don't take care of myself, all this bad stuff starts to happen. I'm like, gotta be careful, So, but anyway, it's not to take it that seriously, but I do think that there's something we're not understanding. And if we are living in a simulation, let's do impossible stuff and laugh or off, Like, let's do that. Like, we're like, here at LightNet, we're testing blooming reality, which is like, okay, if we're living in a dream, if this is all like immaterial, if this is all like a hologram, let's see what we can make happen. And so we look for purple cars. We call it blooming. And we just say, okay, like, let's bloom X. Like, we pick something. And then we're all in the same chat. And then we're like, okay, I saw it. Like, so all of a sudden it randomly appears, and we just got this kabocha that says bloom and it has my symbol, which is a green butterfly on the front. Like, I'll actually show it to you. It's so fun. It's like, this happened last week and I was just like, okay. So literally our word for it, the verb, plus the symbol of me, which is green butterfly. It's like, you can't make this up. And I mean, this is the same thing. I mean, I usually like to show this to the Moto rice experiment. So this is I love you, this is ignore, and this is I hate you. So if we can just create reality in that way, like, let's put some cool stuff in place.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. And maybe you can touch more on the rice experiment and the water experiment. I know you brought up Dr. Emoto, and I'm a big fan of his. I think there was another lady who kind of started doing that experiment first. I forget her name, but yeah, that's profound. It kind of goes back to the power of our mind, right? Because if this body's made mostly of water, how does these negative and positive thoughts affect our health, affect our reality? It's just, yeah, it's amazing.
that goes twofold. So how are those thoughts affecting you? And then you're made up of mostly water. So if water is a crystal that's absorbing whatever is like, it's holding whatever it is, and you think to yourself how much, like, I'm super critical of myself, like, oh, that all adds up.
Mm.
If you're yelling at someone, that's doing this to the inside of their water. So
Wow.
if you're doing right now, you can look up a Moto's rice experiment on the internet, but really all you need to do is put rice and water in a glass. You can do cooked rice, not cooked rice. If it's cooked rice, I like to add a little water on top to get it more watery a little bit. And then you just open it up, put your cell phone on 60 seconds. I love you. You're beautiful. Thank you. One that you just ignore, so you're going to put them like this far apart, And then the other one, same thing. Open it up and just be like, you're black. You're horrible. You're rotten. I hate you. And then 2 weeks later, what just happens? So what does that mean? It also means that our words are spell casting. So over time, we have said that I love you is something good. We have this agreement, societal agreement. So I've even tried this where I've just written the words on it and done nothing, and it works.
Wow.
I just thought it was like BS when people are like, oh, my like consciousness water with the symbol on it. I was like, whatever, if you want to buy it, go for it. Yeah, but it actually is true. If you write something on your water bottle, it's actually having that effect. It will have an effect. So everything around you has an effect. It's all adding to the math of the probability of whatever it is.
So if that inner critic is running wild and we don't have that awareness, we've been doing it for so long, it's been habitualized, and it becomes normal. I'm an idiot. I'm a piece of shit. Even like having traumatic effects, experiencing trauma early on in life, and then you develop a very low self-esteem, limiting beliefs. I'm not good at, because I still have that in me. I could see the I'm not good enough still affect me in today's world, in my life today. And but that has a lot of power over people, over human beings, if we're not aware of that. Because I'm saying I'm an idiot, I'm a piece of shit, or even being told in religion, you're a sinner, you're just a sinner, or you're just a finite piece of crap, and you're not capable of doing certain things. God's got to do it for you. And I mean, you hear that in the 12-step community, you can't fix yourself, you can't heal, you're never going to be cured. Are those very dangerous beliefs, or, limiting beliefs?
I think so. And what's so empowering about all of this, the way reality works, I mean, it's actually quite cosmically hilarious. I'm like laugh so hard. Like, have you ever done tapping?
No, I heard of it.
Yeah, you're hitting your nervous system, like you're hitting these different points. And it's almost like if someone gave you a little instruction, things like, oh, by the way, you can rewrite your entire brain by doing that. So you say, like, I am capable, I am intelligent, or whatever the things you have to reverse, or whatever it is, right? You can reverse those thoughts and change the course of your personality and therefore your life. And it's absolutely bizarre. So they would say that the patterns that are in your brain are going to just be filled out because your brain gets exhausted and it can't be like figuring everything out in every moment. So it's just going to run with whatever is in there, right? Because it's like the fastest place. It's like easiest. No, not a lot of energy. And then when you get into a situation where you have no idea what's going on, like a purple man comes to your door, then your brain turns on. It goes, new pattern. What do we do? And you're like, I don't know. And then you remember that really a lot because your brain was just like, what do we do? The thing is, if you get someone to hypnotize you, or if you do mantras, like I remember I kid you not. Some guy was like, oh yeah, look at this piece of paper. It has like a symbol of luck. And tell yourself every day that you're lucky. And that's what I did. So for $0, $0, and like I'm feeling kind of like an idiot, but it actually worked. So now I don't feel like an idiot. But I would like I put it in my bathroom, and as I was waiting for like the shower to heat up or the whatever to heat up, I would just go, I'm so lucky. I am lucky. And then people started telling me like, oh, thank you, you're so lucky. And I was just like, what? Is it really this easy? So if you don't think about it and don't block yourself from thinking it's ridiculous and actually try it, you can just sit back and watch your life change. And it really doesn't take that long. So they say it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks to really 21 days or whatever to really start having something else sink through. But, now's the time to biohack your way through your best life, because you not having confidence. I mean, I used to be like that about raising money. I was just like, God, economics, I just want to run a nonprofit, like leave me alone, like I didn't know anything about business, like stop. And then I was just like, I'm going to stop saying that I'm not good at that, because it's not helping me. It's good. I'm going to live out that prophecy. I'm telling myself what I am. And therefore, I am that, So you really have to just be like, just tell yourself, I'm an artist, or I'm a podcaster over and over again. And pretty soon you will become one, because it all follows. So I guess what I'm saying is it's really empowering to know. It's really sad to know that our traumas have happened to us, but it's really empowering to know that we can reverse that in very simple ways that are free. You don't have to pay someone $1 million. You just force a will, love yourself, and just, as you go to bed each night or as you wake up or in the morning, just reverse the belief again and again and again. And pretty soon your brain doesn't fight it anymore. You start living that reality. It's just, this just seems so ridiculous. I can't believe I'm saying this right now. It is because it seems so ridiculous, but it actually works. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, thank you. You talk about ETs, making music with ETs. What the heck's that all about?
We decided to reinvent like education at the Starseed Academy, and we said, okay, let's instead of having class where I teach you something, let's do something neither of us know anything about. Let's like go to the edges of the frontier. So like for remote viewing, we're not remote viewing, we're off-planet remote viewing. So we're all looking at other planets, which is not traditional, So it's like we're innovating. And so with ETs, we did this radio research with these ham radios, and we said, well, we've never tried to play music with them. Let's just try it. And we had no fear of failure. And we just got 8 smart people together, and all of us are smart. I consider everyone smart. So we just get, you have a different intuition. I have a different idea. Like, it absolutely works when you get into an intentional setting, just like Lynn McTaggart says, you get 8 people together, you can do anything. You can heal someone of cancer, really. Like, so we're just like, okay, well, let's do anything. And so we got together and we're like, oh yeah, let's make music with ETs. And through our unique intelligences, let's spend 8 weeks together on Zoom for an hour and a half, and let's figure out how to do this. And we came from our heart, because ETs and beings on the other side, they are not circus animals. They do not want to prove what you do not believe. Like, they're not here so you can, prove something to someone or your ego or this or that. They're just here. You know what I mean? They're here because they're curious too. But, so we started getting them all these devices, phones, theremins, radios, like all these devices we'd give to them, and they would just be silent. And there was like no answer. So then we're like, well, I guess we gotta sing to them. So we started singing to them. We started serenading, mixing tapes for them, like the whole thing. And then they started playing back. And it was hilarious. Like they started using our phone apps. They were playing guitar. Like it was absolutely this cultural adventure with them. And that's where I think all of us as citizen science, like I hope and I'm inspiring you guys out there to try new things with fun people. It's not that fun to try new things you're all alone. Like you don't want to talk about it with your boss or your friend or your whatever. But like when you get a bunch of open-minded people going, okay, if this is a simulation, or if there are beings that can see us but we can't see them, let's talk. Let's hang out. And so we really empower each other to really, go the extra mile. So we have like all different things: light language, lucid dreaming, intuition access. Like, so it's we have a lot of fun. It's really fun.
What's light language?
So light language, you can think of it kind of like jazz music, or someone speaking in tongues, or someone singing a song in a foreign language you don't know anything about. So it's literally a channeled guttural transmission that is high frequency. So imagine like if a song has an emotion of layer of 10, that might make you cry. It's pretty cool. Light language is like 70%. You just like full body, you get like goosebumps, you cry, you're just like, it's like sound bath in a way. Have you ever been a sound bath? It's like, well, why am I feel like throwing up? Why do I feel like what is going on? Like, so it's the same way, people tap into their higher self or whatever they're channeling, and they come out with this nonsensical sounds that are from the heart, like fully from the heart. And it's really fascinating. So it's like almost like ET language in a way. Yeah, and it can shift a lot of things for people, because like that's why the like in the Pentecostal church and stuff, like the guy's doing tongues and the guy's getting out of the wheelchair, because again, nobody's in their thinking mind. They're allowing for an event that was not thought possible to emerge by getting out of the way and like feeling it into existence. Because our brain blocks. It blocks us from doing everything. So when you let it go, let it take a back seat, you're actually not blocking God, all it is, the universe, the ETs, whatever is going on, you're allowing. Because everything you think, you're sitting there going, I don't know why I can't bend the spoon. What's wrong with me? I should have eaten something before. All those things are basically you reinforcing a negative outcome.
Blockages.
Yeah, so not believing in yourself, like I do, like you do, is literally taking a freight train in the opposite direction.
Man.
Not helping.
Thank you. Have you had any like crazy conversations with ETs? Have they shared like who they are, where they're from?
Yeah, and again, this is $50 on Amazon for 2 radios. So we ask them all sorts of questions, like what in the radio class we're like, are you guys blue? And they were like, no. And we said, are you transparent? And they said, yeah. And we we ask them about their schools. We ask them like, can they see us? We ask them, but it's almost like sometimes people get choked up and they don't even know what to ask. It's like literally like you're face to face with an ET and you have no questions. Like, are you guys crazy? It's because they're so different from us that we don't even know how we can relate to them. It's almost like confusing. And sometimes they can't answer because we're asking the wrong question, because it's only yes or no. So they'll do 3 beeps. That means you got to rephrase this. I can't get it. I can't, and then they get super excited and they do 4 beeps, which is clapping. So they get really emotional. It's really fun and anyone can do it. And I encourage everyone to do that. So you get these ham radios, 144.101. You set your intention. You don't have to talk because it's illegal because you got to have a license, but you open your heart and they got to figure out how to use the technology. It's not obvious always to them at first, but then it works. And you have an open communication. A lot of times they're just beeping and you don't know what they're saying. And that's okay too. It's kind of like the light language. Like, okay, well, part of me understands what you guys are saying, but it's really beautiful.
Well, yeah. Some people may be afraid because, you hear about false light entities and bringing in all these different negative spirits. So some people may be afraid of that. Have you ever had any experiences like that? Scary, negative?
I say some very unpopular things when I talk about this. I don't even know if I should talk about this. I think that you have to be gentle with yourself because you're not just you. Your whole line of thoughts and feelings and emotions all the way back. 7 generations, more. So we have these fears, but there's nothing to fear in anything. There's never anything to fear. It's only our incompletions and our paranoia that cause us to misjudge any situation. So I don't even believe, you can do a protection ritual and you can do those things to make yourself less paranoid. But if you stand in your strength, you are a pillar of light. You're incarnated, which means you're way more powerful than any spirit could ever be, unless you give them your power, and then you're not. So you have to ground yourself, know who you are. You have allies, you have support, and you have ultimate decision-making process. Now, you command them to move away, to step back. You send them light. You say, here's light. Because a lot of people are just sad or mad. They're not bad, like humans and them too, So I'm not saying there's not bad people that are damaged, but inherently you have the ability to light a darkened anything if you stand in your strength and you toughen yourself up because you can. And, when we become paranoid, we create realities that we don't want to experience. And that's where, again, these timelines, like in one timeline, something bad can happen. In another version, like Joe Dispenza, there's all these people who are speculating there's different versions of ourselves. So live the version that you want and be empowered, because there's people that you can call on them. You can call on like spirit. Like I've heard people like just calling Jesus or calling whatever you need to do, or just be white light and just be like, back away. And I believe that everyone's strong enough, because the thing about math is that it's not equal. So coherence is actually stronger than like a messed up field. That's why 7 million people can meditate and change the course of the entire world, the Maharishi effect. So stand in your coherence, get coherent, and choose to be, strong.
Thank you. Have you ever seen any ETs physically, or have you seen any UFOs?
So I've seen a lot of UFOs, and I would like to see a blue person coming to my door. So like wanting that. We used to set chairs in front of ourselves to be like, okay, you guys could materialize. I'm not going to freak out. You know what I mean? And we've had a lot of weird experiences, like I said, where, if you really pick up the phone, you have to pick up the phone at this point if you really want to communicate with them. You can't just be like, oh, whatever. Like, it has to be an agreement that you're having to some extent, like, let's do this, let's talk. And you can see ships very, very easily here in Sedona. I don't know if it's the the crystal structure, or if it's the electromagnetic field, but it doesn't really matter. You could see a ship wherever you want to. It's just being open to it and being around like-minded people. So if you have 5 people going out for CE5, it could be better than having one person, especially if everyone wants to do it and is truthfully in that. So I've had a lot of channels. I haven't had that many ET dreams, which I kind of wish I would. I've had situations where, highly bizarre situations where owls will appear in my reality constantly, or in the mornings when I wake up. So I know that I probably lead a double life, even where when I sleep, I'm actually on a ship or whatever, I don't know. But, and there are people that are able to see ETs in their waking life by getting in the correct frequency, by training themselves to actually, or also making the tie, I think, to the ETs to say, let's do this. My life isn't going to fall apart. Because, I mean, to be kind of realistic about this, like, you have face-to-face ET contact. You can fall apart a little bit. You might fall apart a little bit. You might not be able to go to work for 2 weeks. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but maybe not. So I think I just always try to be open, and I can see the way that they use the radios, and they turn off all the lights in my house and do all these cool things. And so for me, that's like really cool. And that feels very physical contact to me. But yeah,
That's
look
awesome.
forward to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been wanting to go over there to that UFO tours they have at night. I've seen a number of them right here where I live. I'm in the mountains right outside of Phoenix, and one time I literally stopped, and it was shaped as, it was decorated, I would like to say, as a cloud. But it's pretty obvious what it was, and it seemed like I was the only one that could see it because everyone else is just driving by. But the thing was huge. I don't know if it was a football or
That's
2
cool.
fields away. Long, but it was yeah, it was pretty big. And I literally stopped, took a couple pictures. I didn't put it on video for some reason. I got another sighting on video another time, but I couldn't understand why no one else was stopping. That was kind of weird for me, but it was pretty cool.
There's a really cool app right now called Enigma, which is fun to download. It helps you notice like ETs in your area and alert other people. And if you're that close, come to Sedona. Let's hang out.
Yeah, that'd be
In
awesome.
fact, we're doing, Jimmy Blanchett is running a CE5 for our members in April. So come up that night.
Wow.
Be my guest and come, and we're gonna do a big old C5. And it's like, but yeah, like in the UFO tours in Sedona guarantee sighting. Like they'll give you
Wow.
your $75 back if you don't see UFO. That's how
Confident.
like, yeah, because you have military goggles, you can see a lot better.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. It was an honor having you on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate all you do. I'm hesitant to ask you more about your experience that you had because you said you talk about it all the time, but I think that's a very, very incredible experience that you've had, and it informs you something about life that is important to share. So, because it's like they give us these little breadcrumbs, and you say, well, "Wait a minute, what was that?" It goes around in your head. So I'm glad that you're putting all that together, because you got chosen to have a very, very special experience because of your heart and your life. So congratulations on everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I had 3 different incidents. One's my awakening, kind of had like a glimpse of nirvana, I like to call it. But the second one was when my father passed away. He fell off a cliff in San Pedro, California, and I got terminology thanks to this podcast by my friend Nicole Lindy, who's a medium, psychic medium, and she called it a shared soul blending. She called it soul blending. When my father passed away, I always, because I tapped into his consciousness, overlooking the whole scene, and I seen everything outside of my body, and I realized there's no death. The words of the Bhagavad Gita, I think chapter 2 talks a lot about how we don't die. So that came alive for me. It came real, right? And I had another friend that talked about shared death experience. And she has a radio show and a podcast called We Don't Die. And so like I got this terminology now, like holy crap, that's exactly what happened to me. So yeah, thank you. It's kind of hard not to have an awakening and not to want to like help people or just kind of help broaden the lens, because I was so conditioned to be so small-minded for a long time. It's hard for me not to want to be more helpful and more, you know, put some food for thought out there. Let's think a little bit more broader, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm like so curious about everything you're saying, and I hope that as humanity and we can come together to compare notes and to learn more about the true nature of life and reality, and how life and death works, and how you and I relate, and how ETs work, and things like that. And it's going to take all of us coming together to share some information to get the actual stories. So thank you for doing a huge lift in getting your ideas out there. Very cool. It's a pleasure
Thank you.
meeting you. Forward to
It's a
having
pleasure to
you.
meet you.
Oh,
Thanks for
that's cool.
doing everything you do. And how can we find you and find your links, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So you can go to starseedacademy.org, or you can go to lightnet.org, and we're on our LightNet on social media. So yeah, come and join us. We'd love to have you.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, and namastizzle.
I love that. I love that.